Emma Blake didn't believe in accidents, and neither did her camera. When the 31-year-old investigative YouTuber captured three masked figures dragging a tarp-wrapped bundle into the woods, she thought she'd uncovered a secret. Instead, she triggered a trap. A week later, her body was found in a drainage ditch, blindfolded and bound, and the footage that started it all turned out to be a lie. Emma Blake had always been drawn to the quiet kind of danger, the kind that doesn't come with flashing lights or police tape, but instead hides behind trimmed hedges and polite smiles. Cedar Grove, Oregon, seemed like the kind of town where nothing ever happened. But Emma had learned over the years that small towns keep their secrets better than big cities ever could. She built her YouTube channel around that truth, filming local oddities, unsolved disappearances, and rumors that no one wanted to put in the newspaper. It wasn't sensational. It was slow-burn suspense, with eerie music and cold facts, and it gained a loyal following because Emma never made anything up. She didn't need to. Her lens always found something. Her latest video felt different from the start. It wasn't edited or narrated like her usual uploads. There was no intro music, no soft-spoken voiceover. It was raw dashcam footage, uploaded without context at 2:08 a.m. on a Monday. Viewers clicked on it expecting more of her typical style, but what they got instead was a jarring, uncut 7-minute clip of grainy nighttime footage. The camera mounted to the dashboard of Emma's car captured a deserted rural road lined with trees and scattered trash. The timestamp on the video placed it just 2 nights before the upload. 3 masked figures appeared from the tree line, hauling something large wrapped in a dark blue tarp. The way they moved, hurried, uncoordinated, almost panicked, gave the impression that they didn't expect to be seen. They dragged the bundle across the gravel shoulder and into the brush, disappearing into the shadows. The camera remained pointed straight ahead, unmoving, catching only the retreating beam of a flashlight before everything went dark again. The silence of the video was what made it so unsettling. There was no narration, no explanation, just the ambient sound of insects and the distant rustle of leaves. Emma never identified where it had been filmed, nor did she say who she thought the masked individuals were. But her viewers didn't need much encouragement. Within hours, comment sections filled with speculation. Some claimed it was a staged scene. Others swore they recognized the road, an old utility trail outside of town, near where several missing persons cases had been reported over the past 5 years. More ominous than the video itself was the caption Emma posted beneath it. "They donned to know I saw them." That single line spread like wildfire. On social media, it became a hashtag. On forums, it fueled dozens of threads trying to piece together who they might be, and what exactly Emma had stumbled onto. Internet sleuths dissected every frame, trying to identify license plates, footwear, or even brands on the flashlight. A few commenters warned Emma to take the video down. Some suggested she might be putting herself in danger, but Emma never replied. She never updated, clarified, or followed up with any new information. Her silence was as loud as the video itself. 3 days after the upload, she missed a scheduled live stream event she had been promoting for over a week. That was the first real sign something was wrong. Fans assumed at first that she'd canceled it for her safety. Others hoped she was just laying low. But when her usual Wednesday upload didn't appear, people started to worry. Her email autoresponder was activated, something she'd never used before. Her Patreon messages went unanswered. Behind the scenes, Emma's sister had already begun calling around. She hadn't heard from Emma in 2 days, which was unlike her. By Saturday, a missing persons report had been filed. When police visited Emma's apartment, they found it oddly still. The lights were off, the curtains drawn, and her laptop sat open on her desk. Her car was gone, but her house keys and wallet were still on the counter. Nothing looked ransacked or tampered with, yet something felt off. Her apartment radiated a sense of absence that went deeper than just someone stepping out for groceries. The video that had captivated the internet was now at the center of a real investigation. Detectives watched it again and again, trying to locate the scene. Locals began scouring the wooded backroads, some hoping to help, others hoping to make a name for themselves. What they didn't know, what no one yet understood, was that the video wasn't just a clue to a possible crime. It was bait, carefully placed, carefully timed. Emma Blake had caught something she was never meant to see. Or maybe someone wanted her to see it, and by pressing upload she had already crossed a line she could never return from. The first 48 hours are always the most critical when someone goes missing, but by the time police officially began searching for Emma Blake, those hours had already passed. Her sister Natalie had grown increasingly frantic. Emma was known to go quiet when she was deep in editing or researching a story, but she never completely disconnected. Even during her longest offline periods, she would send a quick text, check in on her channels, or at least answer a call from family. This time there was nothing. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her social media account sat untouched. Her bank account showed no recent activity. It was as if she had evaporated. The police were hesitant at first. Adults disappear all the time, they said. Sometimes people need space. Sometimes they just don't want to be found. But when Natalie showed them Emma's video, the now infamous dash cam clip that had spread across the internet like wildfire, the tone changed. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a missing person. It was about someone who might have witnessed something criminal and was now gone without a trace. Investigators searched Emma's apartment thoroughly. There were no signs of forced entry. Her front door was locked, and nothing appeared stolen or out of place. Her camera gear was neatly stored on her desk, as if she'd planned to return to it. The only thing missing was the external hard drive she used to store her raw footage. It was usually backed up to cloud storage, but strangely, her account had been wiped clean of any files uploaded in the past month. There was no record of the original dashcam footage she had shared on YouTube. Only the final uploaded video remained, stripped of metadata, with no indication of where or how it had been filmed. Her car, a silver Subaru she often used to scout locations, was also missing. Police issued a BOLO alert, and locals were asked to report any sightings. Over the next few days, tips came in from across the county. A few claimed they had seen her car near the mountains. Others believed they saw someone matching Emma's description walking alone near the edge of a nature trail. None of these sightings could be verified. Most were dead ends. The growing online audience that had first celebrated Emma's boldness was now fueling speculation about her disappearance. Reddit threads buzzed with theories, some suggesting she had been abducted by the same people she caught on video. Others proposing that she had faked the entire situation for attention. A few even claimed she had gone underground, planning an elaborate second act to her investigation. But the people who knew her, truly knew her, weren't buying it. Emma was calculated, curious, and cautious. She pushed boundaries, but she never went in blind. Authorities brought in a digital forensics team to look deeper into her YouTube account. That's when they discovered something unusual. The video that sparked all the trouble, the dashcam footage, had not been uploaded from Emma's home IP address. In fact, it hadn't come from anywhere near Cedar Grove. It had been posted using a public Wi-Fi network from a diner 2 towns over. Surveillance footage from the diner showed no sign of Emma on the night in question. This revelation changed the entire direction of the case. It meant someone else had uploaded the video, someone with access to her footage, or someone trying to frame a narrative. Police were no longer sure if Emma had even been the one to capture the clip at all. Maybe she was lured out with a promise of a lead. Maybe the video had been planted, designed to look like an accidental discovery. If that was true, then Emma's disappearance was no coincidence. It was a setup. Emma's followers began noticing something else strange. Comments were being deleted from her video, not just random spam, but specific ones. Comments that mentioned names, roads, or similar incidents from the past. Some users claimed they had seen replies from Emma that were later removed. Whether this was the work of the platform or someone with access to her account remained unclear. Days stretched into a week. Posters with Emma's face were taped to telephone poles and pinned to bulletin boards in every cafe across Cedar Grove. Volunteers organized search parties. Drones were flown over the woods, but with no leads, no witnesses, and no new clues, hope began to fade. Everyone kept returning to the same question. What exactly had Emma stumbled onto? Because whether she had captured something dangerous or been made to believe she had, one thing was now painfully clear. She was gone, and someone wanted her to stay that way. The discovery came on a gray, wet morning that matched the growing dread hanging over Cedar Grove. Two teenagers, siblings out on a weekend bike ride, had taken a shortcut through an overgrown trail south of town. It was a forgotten stretch of land wedged between the edge of a wildlife preserve and an old service road. The kids weren't supposed to be there. Flood warnings had gone out just days before, but they knew the trails better than most. What they didn't expect was to find a body face down in the muddy water of a drainage ditch. At first, they weren't even sure what they were looking at. The figure was motionless, half submerged, tangled in tall weeds and debris. The water was shallow but murky, brown with runoff and choked with trash. When they realized it was a person, they ran, breathless, to the nearest house and called 911. Within hours, the area was taped off. Forensics teams in rain gear waded into the ditch while officers pushed back the growing crowd of onlookers who had followed the sirens. Rumors spread quickly through town. People whispered the name everyone had been thinking: Emma Blake. The confirmation didn't take long. Fingerprints, along with a small tattoo on her left wrist, made the identification swift and indisputable. Emma Blake, 31 years old, had been found dead exactly 1 week after she was reported missing. She was discovered with her hands bound behind her back, her wrists bruised and chafed. A strip of dark cloth covered her eyes. Her clothes were waterlogged, her shoes missing. Despite the condition of her body, the medical examiner determined she had been killed just 2 days earlier. That meant she was alive for at least 5 days after she vanished. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the side of the head. There were no defensive wounds, suggesting she had been struck without warning. Toxicology later revealed low doses of sedatives in her system. She hadn't just been killed, she had been held somewhere, restrained and kept quiet. The ditch itself offered few clues. No tire tracks were immediately visible, and the rain had washed away most surface evidence. But a few feet away, hidden beneath a cluster of rocks, police found something unusual: a torn piece of a black tarp. It matched the material seen in the dashcam footage Emma had uploaded, the same footage that had sparked the investigation in the first place. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a message. A deeper search of the surrounding area led investigators up a narrow gravel path to an abandoned logging mill. The structure had been left to rot for years, its roof half collapsed and its interior overrun by mold and rust. But hidden inside the lower level was a small, sealed room that appeared recently used. There was a stained mattress, food wrappers, an empty water jug, and zip ties in the corner. On one wall hung a flashlight held up with tape. In the center of the room stood a camera tripod. There were no security cameras, no fingerprints, and no clear signs of who had been there. But the tripod caught the eye of one of the detectives. It had a small sticker near its base, a faded logo from a company called Pinnacle Security Systems. To the casual observer, that name meant nothing. But to those who had followed Emma's work, It rang a very loud bell. Emma had investigated Pinnacle a year earlier in a series of videos that alleged the company was involved in illegal surveillance, harassment, and possibly even bribery of local officials. Her reporting had contributed to the company's sudden shutdown shortly after the videos went live. At the time, many believed it had been the end of the story. But now it seemed that wasn't true. Digging into public records, police discovered that Pinnacle had been rebranded just months later under a new name, Northwell Protective Services. It was operating under a different license with new management on paper, but many of the same personnel, including Derek Caney, Pinnacle's former CEO, were still involved. Investigators approached Northwell with a warrant, but the company's office was already cleared out, computers wiped, filing cabinets emptied. The entire operation had been stripped within 48 hours of Emma's body being found. Whoever had killed Emma didn't just want her gone. They wanted to erase the trail behind her. But they made one mistake. They left behind that tripod. And Emma had left behind more than just a video. She had started a fire, and now it was burning through everything. The deeper investigators dug into the twisted connections between Emma Blake and the now defunct Pinnacle security systems, the more disturbing the picture became. What started as a missing persons case had clearly evolved into something far more organized, something deliberate. Emma hadn't just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. She had been targeted. Police began rewatching Emma's entire video catalog, looking for anything she might have uncovered, any thread that could have led someone to silence her. Her series on Pinnacle, released the previous year, stood out sharply. In the three-part exposé, Emma had interviewed former clients and employees, dug into lawsuits, and exposed the company's practice of installing unregistered surveillance equipment on both public and private property. She had documented reports of harassment, strange visits at night, and even suspected connections to local law enforcement. The videos weren't widely circulated at the time, but they had quietly made waves among the right people. One of those people was Derek Caney. He was a former military contractor turned private security entrepreneur. Slick, calm, and extremely calculated, he had kept a low profile since Pinnacle's closure. But according to financial records, Caney had funneled assets into a new company within 3 months, Northwell Protective Services, operating out of a temporary office space just outside Cedar Grove. When investigators requested to speak with him, Caney maintained an air of detached professionalism. He denied knowing Emma personally. He said she had made defamatory claims against his old company but admitted no wrongdoing. He told police that Northwell had nothing to do with Pinnacle's previous operations, even though former employees from Pinnacle were now working under Northwell's name. Everything was legal, he claimed, above board. But his words didn't match the evidence beginning to surface. Digital analysts had finally traced the IP address used to upload Emma's last video. It had originated from a public Wi-Fi network in a small-town diner, an odd detail that had puzzled detectives. When they pulled security footage from the diner on the night the video was uploaded, they saw a man sitting alone in a back booth, hunched over a laptop. The angle wasn't ideal, but he wore a jacket with a Northwell logo stitched on the sleeve. The timestamp on the footage matched exactly with the time Emma's video appeared on her YouTube channel. Now investigators were looking at a scenario that no longer involved Emma uploading a shocking discovery. Instead, it looked more like someone had planted the video, deliberately, methodically, using her channel as a delivery system. Whether she had already been taken by that point was still uncertain, but one thing was becoming clear. The video wasn't meant to warn anyone. It was meant to lure her in. Detectives interviewed people close to Emma, hoping to identify anyone who had approached her with a lead. Her sister remembered Emma mentioning a tip she received just a day before she vanished. A man claiming to have information about an illegal surveillance operation still running under a different name. He wouldn't give her details over the phone but told her to meet him near an old warehouse outside of town. Emma hadn't said much else, only that she was going to check it out quickly and bring her camera. That warehouse, it turned out, was located only a mile from the abandoned logging mill where her body had been found. And the man she was supposed to meet? Unidentified. Even more chilling, Emma's email records, pulled from a recovered backup, contained a single, unsent message. It was half-written, possibly composed just before she left her apartment. The subject line read, "Need to tell you this now." The body included only one sentence. "If something happens, start with the security companies. They're the same people." She never finished the email. Investigators believe she was interrupted while writing it. The case had officially become a criminal investigation. Search warrants were issued, hard drives were seized, but every lead led to another locked door. Northwell's digital infrastructure had been wiped clean. Former employees either denied involvement or claimed they had only been hired for temporary low-level work. No one could or would explain how Emma's footage had ended up online without her. Emma's audience, meanwhile, turned from curious viewers to relentless digital watchdogs. Amateur sleuths began tracing company filings, organizing timelines, and comparing photos from past videos. They noticed strange overlaps. Vehicles parked outside old Pinnacle locations appearing in background footage of Emma's recent work. Someone had been following her for longer than anyone realized. The more they searched, the clearer the pattern became. This wasn't just a case of silencing a whistleblower. It was about control. Controlling the footage, controlling the story. Controlling what the world believed Emma saw. And in trying to suppress the truth, someone had left behind something they didn't expect. A trail of breadcrumbs. And Emma, even in death, had laid the first ones down herself. 2 weeks after Emma Blake's body was found, just as the investigation began to lose momentum and public interest started to shift, a break came from an unexpected place. A pawn shop on the outskirts of Bend, nearly 60 miles from Cedar Grove. An employee had been cataloging new electronics when he noticed a dusty external hard drive with a faded label reading EB Raw Files. It had come in with a batch of miscellaneous items sold for cash by a man using a fake ID. The employee recognized Emma's initials from the news and called it in. Police recovered the drive immediately. When they opened it, what they found reshaped everything they thought they knew. Among the disorganized folders and unedited footage were clips Emma had recorded in the final 2 days before her disappearance. Most were standard. Notes to herself, test shots, timestamps, voice memos about her investigation into Northwell. But one video stood out. It was filmed just after midnight, the night before she vanished. The camera was inside her car, mounted on the dash. Emma sat behind the wheel, facing the camera as she spoke in a quiet, measured tone. She looked tired but focused. In the background, the faint glow of headlights could be seen behind her, likely another car following closely. She described being contacted by someone claiming to have information about a secret project linked to the old Pinnacle security systems. He refused to give his name but told her to meet him at a warehouse south of town. She seemed nervous, but determined, stating she would record everything and back it up before going. The next clip was taken from the same dash cam, but showed a new location, a cracked parking lot outside a derelict building. A man walked up to the passenger side of Emma's car. His face was obscured by a baseball cap pulled low. He knocked on the window, leaned in, and handed her an envelope. Then he gestured for her to follow him into the building. Emma turned the camera toward herself one last time and whispered, "If something happens, don't trust the police, not all of them." The footage cut off abruptly as she opened the car door and stepped into the dark. That clip was never posted. She hadn't even transferred it to her laptop. Whoever took Emma had either missed the hard drive or believed it had been erased or discarded. But instead it ended up in a pawn shop, quietly holding the last known moments of her life. Investigators analyzed the video frame by frame. Enhanced stills of the man showed the logo of Northwell Protective Services on his sleeve. His build and posture matched that of a former Pinnacle employee named Lucas Heller, a name that had appeared in one of Emma's earlier exposés, though she had never met him in person. Heller had since vanished. His home was abandoned, his phone disconnected, and no one had seen him in weeks. With the discovery of the footage, the theory that Emma had simply gotten in too deep was finally confirmed. She hadn't just caught something on camera. She had been manipulated into a carefully staged situation. The dash cam video that captivated the internet had been designed to provoke curiosity, to lure her in. It had done its job. And once she went looking for more, they made sure she wouldn't come back. Yet in death, Emma had managed to finish what she started. The evidence on the hard drive reopened the investigation in full. Grand jury subpoenas were issued. Federal authorities stepped in. Former Pinnacle and Northwell employees were questioned under oath. The abandoned warehouse and logging mill were combed for missed evidence. Connections between the companies and several high-ranking community figures, developers, private contractors, even a former sheriff began to surface. Emma had spent years exposing small secrets, but the one that killed her was bigger than she ever expected. It wasn't just about illegal surveillance or corporate misconduct. It was about an invisible network of control, built in plain sight, shielded by paperwork, silence, and fear. The final video from the hard drive was a short clip, taken days before everything unraveled. Emma was sitting in her apartment, editing late at night. She looked directly into the camera and said, "The truth isn't buried. It's just ignored long enough to be forgotten. I don't plan on forgetting." She didn't, and now neither will anyone else.